well-known hospital in Jaipur, in my own hometown, recently reached out to us. This is an entity we regularly and routinely refer patients and clients to. And they said they asked us to help them find an art therapist. And very confidently, I responded saying, "Oh, yeah, just give me a couple of minutes and I will get you several options." And
Yeah.
the moment I began going through my directory on my phone, I tragically realized that each and every art therapist I knew and had had some kind of interaction or work with was anywhere except in Jaipur. And that was a very, very sad realization for me. And therefore, very selfishly, when I learned of our guest today and the fact that she is in our city, working amongst other things as an arts based therapist and practitioner, it gave me immense joy, hope, and optimism. We are calling today's session of talk therapy Art Thou Healing, brought to you by Driveway Devi as usual. I'm Karthik on behalf of Driveway Devi, and much as tends to be the case with many women, Garima also is someone who has worn and continues to wear many hats, but chief amongst them and most pertinent to us is her work in the arts therapy space. She has her own beautiful studio, very centrally located in C Scheme in Civil Lines, for those familiar with the city. And she is also, again, selfishly of special relevance because she is part of the Uday community, which is our daughter's quote unquote alternative school, which is based on the Waldorf system and philosophy. So lots of synergies, lots of mutual respect, if I can make that assumption. And it is with huge pleasure that I welcome Garima and thank her for making the time to do this. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Karthik, and I'm very grateful to you. I think Jaipur has been calling me, and I think the energies were already, the vibrations were already in the air. And I think there was some work which needs to be done here. And so I am in Jaipur. And so I have established a physical center here. So I've been working since 5 years online. But Jaipur happened to be the place where I actually had all the manifestations and the universe working together to actually bring a physical manifestation of my initiative called Mio. So I am Garima, I'm the founder of Mio. It's a space for children and families. It has two parts. One is the aftercare and the daycare part, and the other is the art therapy part, where I will be taking clients in therapy, supporting families with children with uh, learning difficulties or behavioral difficulties. So to begin, to go a little back in history, I am born and brought up in Meerut. In a huge family, I have a huge family back there. And I studied from Meerut. I did my schooling from there. After that, I moved to a near Delhi. I did my bachelor's in my fine arts. So basically, I started my journey as an artist. And I did my master's from Baroda as a specialist in painting. So at that time, I was already into uh, a lot of process around art. I had the awareness about art therapy already in me, and I already also wanted to do a master's program in art therapy. But unfortunately, in India, we don't have such programs. But through LinkedIn and other, media platforms, I was in touch with people outside India, how is the culture and how people are doing. So that dream or that desire remained somewhere inside me. And I continued my journey as an artist. And I think I was pretty much doing very well in the arts. I got an award by the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, scholarship award during my college time. And I have exhibited widely as well. Last Last year, I was exhibiting in Gurgaon. I had a group show. I went for a residency program in Goa as well last year. But I always had this, thing that I want more purpose and value around my work in terms that I didn't want it to be an isolated artist. I wanted to take my practice further to the community. So, I mean, it's a long journey to, make it short. I worked in Delhi for 7 years in a mainstream school. After that, I decided to leave that job and I took up a course in arts-based therapy. That also was like mystic. I came across a course, the very first course, I mean, which I was longing for, something like that in JNU campus. And somebody shared with me that, there's this arts-based therapy course. It uses lots of modalities. So if you want to take it up, I quickly took it. I was like, this is something which is meant for me, and I'm going to take it up. So there I did my course. It was like a 1 year long journey in research where I happened to get a chance to work in Women's Hospital, where I did my internship, my pilot project, as well as my advanced research project. So that actually really turned my, kind of my career upside down. And I would say that art became, a boat, a sailboat, which actually showed me the direction of the wind.
Mm.
If I want to put it in terms of a metaphor, um, that's what I wanted to do. So yes, so I think that made me an arts-based therapist. I work with people in addiction. I worked with bipolar patients and patients who had schizophrenia in Women's Hospital, patients who were in daycare, especially starting from age 16 to age 60, mostly men and some women as well.
Okay, I'm going to jump in there. First of all, thank you for that brief but very, very significant backstory and insight. Lots of thoughts are flooding my mind because you preemptively answered a couple of my questions together. Some of my thoughts, of course, are
Yeah.
perfectly sincere and serious. Others are slightly cheeky. एक तो गोवा में रेजिडेंसी करने जब जाते हैं तो कुछ काम वाम होता भी है कि नहीं?
हमारे
And
जैसे हमारे जैसे लोग कर लेते हैं.
and the other thing, actually, I wanted to say is that uh, uh, while there aren't perhaps at this point any full-fledged academic programs in this sphere,
Yes.
sometimes I find that, particularly with an accomplished artist such as yourself, I think that's more than enough of a background, and then it can sometimes be very liberating not to have an academic structure to every pursuit one is involved with, because it frees you up a little bit. Like, I've been teaching for 12 years. I'm not a trained teacher. I don't have a B.Ed. And I find that, and with all due respect to all teachers who've qualified themselves, but I find that my approach is completely unconventional because I didn't go through that system. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. So that was
Exactly.
one. And the other thing is that, you talked very correctly about you finally had and have built and have a physical space here for your studio and for your therapy center. And really, once an individual decides to get into brick and mortar, it's literally like putting tentacles in and putting roots down in a place. So, again, I'm at the cost of repetition, very happy that you've decided to do that in the Pink City. Um, I would love to ask you and to have you share a little bit about, um, you know, uh, slightly more insight in terms of what kind of change did you experience during that entire Wim Hans time, as you very poetically and poignantly put it. But you were doing well. It's very difficult for an individual to establish themselves as an artist and make a livelihood just from that, and to then decide to get into the therapy space. I want to just understand really that one focused reason you made that decision.
Um, So in college, I was already very much oriented towards the process, and I knew what art is doing to me. I was more into the process
Hmm.
rather than taking my energies towards exhibiting my work in gallery. Though I did because it demanded the society as well as the course demanded it. But the one major reason was because I was already experiencing it myself. I wanted to take it further. I wanted a more meaningful, direction to my life. I wanted to create more value through my work. So, from my own selfish pursuit of being an artist, if I would put it in a very strong way, I think I wanted to do some community service where I felt that I would get a certain sense of satisfaction and happiness. Because for me, my career and everything is very much related to how emotionally nurturing that is for me as well, not just financially. So yes, I was working as a teacher, so I could financially, sustain myself for many years. But the decision to move into arts-based therapy was solely that I was feeling very empty inside, that there is something more to, what I wanted to in life.
There was a very specific thing that you mentioned that deeply resonated with me. You said, and you again repeated very correctly, that you were sort of longing for a deeper connection with community. As somebody who's a writer, poet, and musician, I completely concur that all art is essentially about society, and of society, and a commentary on society from the lens of the artist, whatever his or her chosen mode of expression may be. Um, but one of life's great ironies is that while an artist is very deeply entrenched in society, sometimes society sees the artist as needlessly intellectual, vagera, vagera, and places a wall and a distance between themselves and the artist. And then it becomes very alienating. So
Exactly.
I completely understand your deep desire to break those walls and directly reach out in a manner where you'd be interacting sort of one on one.
Yes, exactly. So my point was that to not limit it to the gallery, but to take it out to the wider, audience, to actually the process part of it, which I was already experiencing myself. I was already reading a lot of Jung, Freud. I was already into, these subjects, catharsis. All these were part of my, thesis as well. In fact, when I was doing my thesis, master's year thesis, the topic was intuition and art. So, unknowingly, I was already doing art therapy. Though
Absolutely.
my teachers were very, this thing with me that what are you doing? You're not painting. I said, I'm actually taking rounds of the psychology department because I'm more interested. I was spending more time in the library in Department of Psychology. I was spending more time with the professors, asking them about where I can, go and where I can find out what is it doing to the human mind. What is
Absolutely.
the
No, but
process of it?
I think you will agree that in any case, these are two broad areas. I mean, whether it's the pursuit of arts and then the psychology of it are so symbiotic and intertwined. How can you even separate them, actually?
Exactly. That's what we are doing nowadays. We're separating all everything. Like art is separate, science is separate. So in a way, I always say that I'm not changing careers. I'm just integrating some other aspect of
Most definitely. Now,
yeah.
let's move to the fact that you have made this quite courageous leap of faith, and you're in Jaipur and you're running this center. we are all aware that there is a deficit of knowledge and awareness in our country, particularly in sort of relatively smaller cities and towns. What are some things that you are doing and you hope others who are in a position of influence in the city would do to propagate awareness and knowledge about the kind of work you're doing?
So I think I'm right now working on building a community, gathering, doing some promotions through workshops only, inviting other people from other cities whom I'm in connection with, other arts-based therapists whom I have started and worked together. So that's my aim, to not just do it myself, but to get people from outside as well, to invite them here, so that they do a certain content which which projects that Mio is doing this kind of work. So to get an insight into what I do, I think I am planning some sessions every month where I will be using all the modalities I'm using, and I'll be giving them an experience to have an awareness. Because of attending just one session can give you awareness, but not healing.
Of course.
You need to commit at least, a certain period of time if you want to see those shifts in a person.
Sure, of course.
Apart from this, I'm also reaching out to organizations in Jaipur where I can go and orient them on the kind of work I do. So I'm thinking of approaching few organizations I'm talking to where I can actually go there and do a session with maybe high school children, or adults, or in hospitals, where I can actually give a certain experience to them of the kind of work I'm doing. Because working with multimodalities actually gives me that flexibility to work with a wide variety of population.
Of course. I mean, I want to come to the numerous modalities very specifically and in a little bit of detail, but let me quickly take the opportunity to share with you that we can certainly assist you in terms of your outreach to organizations and various bodies, whether they are hospitals or whether even for that matter, private clubs. For example, my wife and I are part of, let's say, Jaipur Club. Now, that is a very, very captive and large audience where we can certainly organize, some kind of an orientation workshop. It's a very, very family orientated club. It's got an entire age range. There are third generation members. And typically speaking, you will find on any given evening, three generations of a family come together.
Wow, that's
So
wonderful.
yeah, so just wanted to mention that so that we both keep that at the backs of our minds. I
Yeah.
tend to forget in my ripe old age, so hopefully you will remember.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll get back to you for that, definitely.
Now let's come to the modalities, because in any case I was very curious about that,
Yeah.
and you do sort of dabble is a wrong word; it gives it a negative connotation, but you do employ various modalities. How has that come about? How have you curated this hybrid system? Is it hybrid, or do you use individual modalities depending on the kind of client or group you have and what you feel will be most effective for that particular group of people?
Yeah. So definitely, I think it's both ways. I do hybrid also, and I use a particular medium for a particular client. It depends on what the situation is and what the client is coming up with. So first of all, I would like to tell you what modalities I use. So the major modalities are rhythm, painting, drawing and painting, and storytelling, and drama, and movement, of course. So these are the major modalities around which the session is built. Since because I am more experienced with painting, so painting is my major modality, which I use in my artistic creation when I work with my clients. So in rhythm, I always also do drum circles. And in painting, I have also integrated world of something from world of education. So kind of when I started arts-based therapy, it took me a while. It took me some years to actually digest what I have been doing and what actually it is doing to the client and what actually is happening to me.
Hmm.
So this is one, major block where I do. So rhythm and the drumming and the, all the body percussion work, which a part of which I've taken from world of education as well, and from what the practices, music practices are going on in the contemporary world, creating a beat or, singing, making your own composition, especially in group work, a lot of compositions can be made. I think it works very well with people with addiction because it actually uplifts the mood of the person and it produces good hormones in the body. So this is one major modality. So it depends the kind of population I'm working with. Somebody who is melancholic and who is more into, more like drawn in emotions and feelings and is not able to come out of that water, I think needs a painting modality more in my practice. And and drama actually works very well with body work, where bringing awareness to the body and as well as um, how people struggle with
Hmm.
identity crisis,
Hmm.
self-esteem,
Hmm.
can actually be dealt with through drama.
Hmm.
So it doesn't work if I just do one modality. I actually try different things and then after assessing, come to a point where I know that this will work for this client very well. It will do magic for that person. I'll give you a very practical example because, just I don't want to use very big jargon words and,
Sure.
about therapy and all. I'll share with you from one of my classroom experiences where I have, it's been like long and I've seen some boys who want to dress up like girls, right? And they want to play with dolls. And, they are kind of experiencing a kind of self-awareness where they're in a process right now of experiencing the world where we cannot fix them into one thing or the other in
Right.
terms of gender identity.
Right.
So, what I do in my practice of therapy, as well as in my classroom practices, I give that child a role of a girl in theater. And the moment I ask, okay, who will take the role? Suppose there's a story, and I'll ask, okay, who is going to take the role of the two goddesses in the story? These some of the boys will quickly raise their hand because they know now they have got a safe space to express themselves in whatever manner they want to. So
Hmm.
I think that gives them a very safe space to express themselves, but they're not able to really express within the society because everybody is going to make fun of them. Why you're playing with dolls,
Of
you are a
course.
boy. Why you're playing with cars, you're a girl. Same thing can happen with girls. So I think I shift those roles and bring in, this is just one example.
Hmm.
In
Hmm. Hmm.
theater, we can explore a lot of, things because in theater, you can be anything. In you can take up any role and, express yourself.
A lot of what you're saying makes imminent sense. I want to share that as somebody who's formally studied film and direction and has had extended interaction with actors of all kinds, stage, theater, film, television, OTT, that a fair few of them are individuals who are quite unformed in their self image in their real lives, and therefore seek refuge and live out their full, robust selves through
Yeah.
the parts that they essay. So that makes perfect sense. Similarly, as someone who has been an addict and is still on a journey to try and quit, and I've written about this extensively. I want
Yeah.
to check actually that when you say specifically painting or art therapies categorically can really help in addiction, at what point does it help? Does it help in the rehabilitation process and therefore in the very, very bad stages and phases of withdrawal, etc.? How does it help?
So of course, in the withdrawal stage, it helps, but it is just an awareness at
Hmm,
first stage.
hmm.
Then it has to come into practice, and then it has to come into habit. So the change happens very slowly. It's not an easy one. It also, you know, if the person is willpower comes up to that level that the person takes up one of the art and practices it in his life continuously, then I think it really, really can help. Otherwise, there's a chance of relapse.
Hmm. Also, I'm merely playing devil's advocate to gain a better understanding for myself and for those who might listen and watch. Each of the modalities that you draw from are very exhaustive and robust and fully formed modalities individually in within
Yes.
themselves. So I'm just wondering that when you say that in certain situations where you so determine, you do use on occasion a hybrid or a mix or
Yes.
a combination. I mean, does that sort of get too much? And then those other modalities also, are you personally facilitating, or you call in other people and you guys do it jointly?
So I can tell you the structure of my work. There is always a warm up involved, and then the creation, and then a closure. So warm up and closure are very light. So there can be a movement or a sound work of a theater which is used
Correct.
in the.
Right.
So so at one time I work with one modality. So then it doesn't lead to that, okay, I have to do that. So it is actually not the art work I am creating, but it's sort of taking on a journey through movement, which opens up the body and then getting into the body first, which is also part of the world of education, that we have first get into the body, then we get and put things on paper.
Hmm.
So getting into the body also becomes very important part. So majorly I use movement as a warm up and creation part, which is longer as a and then there's a closure to it, which can be relaxation as well, which can be breath work as well.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, and there is one another important aspect of the practice is metaphor work.
Hmm.
I work with metaphors. So my job is to actually recognize where is the wound, where is the pain coming from, what is the metaphor for that, and what healing metaphor is coming up in the artwork. So I'm not an interpreter of the artwork. I don't interpret the artwork, but my job is actually to work on the belief system as well, through the metaphors.
Can you contextualize that through an example? I understand and appreciate the theory of it, but just
Yeah.
for
So, for example, if in a painting a client is making a lot of darkness, so I am reading it, I'm taking it as uncertainty, confusion, not knowing what to do, or there is a pain associated with it, then probably I can I the session flows in such a way that through the conversation as well as through the work itself, certain healing metaphors themselves emerge in the work. So it doesn't take like it's not one day thing, but it comes out.
of course, of
So
course.
I'll give you an example of a girl who started making lanterns suddenly in her work. It went from doing very dark and all those aggression and darkness and pain in her work towards bringing in light of the lantern. So every time when I see her drowning in the water of that darkness, the metaphor of the lantern was what I was using to pull her back.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I used to tell her that the lantern's light might get dim, but you can take help and light from the other lanterns around you
Hmm.
so that you can sustain your lantern up for a bit when you are struggling. So that was a work with a teenager who was actually into self-harm. And
Makes
and the
sense.
and then the major shift which happens was, I'm very happy to share that there was no such episode of episode after that.
Touch wood.
And art really quickly helps in assessment than talk. But I would still recommend that to work closely with a psychotherapist also
Hmm.
works very well. You
Hmm.
actually have a blended approach where you are
Correct.
taking art therapy, and then there is an expert, a psychotherapist who can actually also, work on the same patient.
Makes
And
sense.
the insights which are there coming from the art can be exchanged with the psychologist. And then it works wonder. I've seen like people transforming, I see magic happening. And I have seen that in myself as well, in my own journey, how I struggled with self-esteem, how I struggled with that I'm not good enough, and how what metaphors came in my work. So yeah.
Matlab, to sort of, it's a very, very crude way of interpreting it, but just to, in order to explain to the uninitiated, it's literally like आप हार्ट के डॉक्टर के पास जाएंगे, वो आपको कहेगा कि भैया कोलेस्ट्रॉल बहुत बढ़ गया है। वो उनका काम है डिटरमिन करना और मॉनिटर करना, पर वो आपको सुझाएंगे कि भैया आप जिम ज्वाइन कर लीजिए। सो दैट इज द पार्ट दैट योर allied art therapist will play, and then both will have to go in tandem and feed off of each other and consult with each other to really properly supervise one's healing. So it's really it's pretty much
Yeah,
like that.
it's also an intentional work. It's not just
Hmm.
creating an artwork.
Hmm.
It is more than that, because I have seen many artists in the same loop. They are in the same loop of creating that artwork.
Hmm.
Their pain is getting transformed into beauty,
Hmm.
but they're not able to let go.
Hmm.
The therapist actually helps to let go, and
Hmm.
then that process happens in the patient.
Well, I mean, you could might just open a Pandora's box there, because
Yes.
people such as myself, intentionally ensure that the pain lingers and hangs around. Otherwise, we can't create.
Yeah. I
So
think if we go deeper into it, then we integrate
it's a
it.
it's a
Uh,
double-edged sword.
uh,
Okay,
I
now
think turning
finally,
pain into beauty is
hmm.
also, what works.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a much healthier way of looking at it, of course. Finally, as we wrap up, and I think some of this might be repeated, but I think it's important that we conclude on this note. Uh, Share a few things. Obviously, you can't possibly do an orientation here, but share a few fundamental pieces of information that may help people who are listening to come and give art based therapy a shot.
Um, so
And,
I
and,
think
and you know, the reason I'm asking is that there's so much mystery around it still.
yeah. So I think until and unless we swim in the water, how will we know about, about the water? So I think it is worth giving shot. And I see a lot of awareness in people around. They know that art is actually helping them. I see a lot of circles, sharing circles, music jammings happening around the city in Jaipur, where people know that, to some level, there's some catharsis being happening, there's some channelizing being happening. I think people are quite well aware. And I think to do some intentional work around it is worth, giving it a try from with an expert
Well,
who's already.
I'm glad that you're clearly more optimistic than I am. I don't disagree with you, but I still feel that a critical mass of the Aam Admi is
Yes.
still very mystified. Of course, I one knows and one is sort of networked in the same circles, and there are safe spaces, there are circles happening, there are support groups happening, and drum circles, etc., etc. But I think that is still confined to the or to people who are perceived as the intellectual elite, even if they are young college going
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah. So when I do certain workshops, I don't call it therapy also. Sometimes we
Hmm.
just explore in a
Hmm.
very light manner,
Yeah.
like, let's make art together. You know, I was in fact thinking of bringing in senior citizens as well.
Hmm.
I know how they are also isolated. the children are living in another
Yeah.
city, they are living here. So creating the kind of space where people just come together, they can create an artwork together and then see and have a discussion around it. I think from there only we can start and bring more awareness rather than using those big words, heavy words, which might push people, okay, this is therapy or something. So I think in general, doing any art practice really works for, I recommend that, to parents, to everybody, if one is practicing any one art form, then they can sail through the
Most
life.
definitely, most definitely. I can't possibly leave you without asking you about MYO. What is the sort of genesis of that?
So, another part of my practice also lies in having a perception of life very clear, because we work with a lot of suffering around us. We kind of take on, it's difficult to keep us, keep ourselves also protected. So I also use some concepts of Buddhism in my work, uh, which helps me to understand life better,
Sure.
like the concept of impermanence and many other concepts. I read widely about different, Buddhist practitioners, psychology, and philosophy. So Myo is a Japanese word, frankly. It means to bring yourself to full potential.
Hmm.
It's uh, it's also the mystic aspect of life. So I was very fascinated by, it was something which, stays with me, and I wanted to, keep this, a word only for my center. It's been 5 years that I'm using. When I established the center here, I decided to, keep the same name, because of the meaning and the intention. I want to create a living space for that. Now, there are future goals also
Of course, no, but I
related
must
to.
say that it's a very beautiful name derived from I think derived from an ethos that every human being, to some degree, is sort of going after or wants to realize, and so it's really beautiful and. Yeah, I mean the more power to you. It's wonderful that you are here in our city, providing extremely important services and the work that you're doing, and hope to do whatever we can, a little bit modestly, to assist and support. We will do. It's been a wonderful chat. I think people will gain a lot from it, and the city will at large. So, thank you once again for being here and for being with us on this conversation.
Thanks to you, Karthik, for giving me the opportunity to really actually say it loud out in front of many people. Uh, I think to be able to reach out to a lot of people through this platform is for which I'll always be grateful to you, and hope we keep on doing such, talks. And
Most
thank you
definitely.
again for hosting me.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening. Bye bye.